Girls on Tour is a book club that aims to keep us connected while shining a light on some badass women and gender diverse people within the entertainment industry. Touring can be incredibly boring and sometimes very isolating. Having stories to connect over can make us feel close no matter how far apart we are. I'm going to say a bold claim.
And I love it.
This is my favourite book we've read so far.
And do you know what I'm going to say to that? I'm going to agree.
I feel like I have so many things to say about the book that we need to introduce ourselves first.
I think we put so much stoppers on what we were going to say before that I've stopped
now
too much.
I'm like,
and now I have
repressed.
nothing.
I've repressed. I can't do it. Welcome to Book Club. My name is Monique. I am an all-round tech. I work in the entertainment industry in a very chaotic lifestyle where I basically professionally press shiny buttons and touch people's foreheads and necks. Welcome.
That was so sensual. What do I do? Who am I? My name is Bryony. You can call me BB. I'm a marriage celebrant. I don't touch people in their face, but I'm therefore. I know everything about love. The only way you can be a marriage celebrant is if you have gone through the many stages of love, and that is me. No, I make the best day of their lives even better.
That's hot.
Thank you.
That's super
Thank
hot.
you so
But
much.
also raises to me an interesting point. There are probably so many marriage celebrants who are so shit in relationships and have such fucked love lives.
And you know what?
And we never
Pop
know.
off. And I love that. Some people are good in theory, not in practice. And we love that for them. We're here to talk about books.
We're here to
Bring
talk
it back
about
in.
books. We are feral little reading goblins, and here we are. This month's book. For another quick little tangent. The last time we sat down to film something together, I had so many things to say, but I didn't know I had so many things to say. So afterwards, and while I was editing it, I was like, am I talking too much? I have zero fucking cares if I talk too much in this episode because I have so much to say.
Sit
so
down.
much to say.
Listen.
This month, we are reading The Cruel Prince by our queen, Holly Black. There are so many things to say about this book. There are so many things. So we're going to get out of the spoiler-free area so fucking fast because I have too many feelings and I can't feel them properly. If they're in here, they need to be out here. We follow a girl named Jude. She is a mortal girl living in fairyland. Fairyland is like, it's in our world, but it's like in the offskirts. It's in the little weird parts. Like, they can access the human world. Like, it's somewhat close, but it's not. Which, what do they call that? What do they call that in a genre? Urban fantasy. I know
Whoa.
books. I know stuff. The word urban fantasy, which also the word urban we have feelings about as a genre, does not fit this book at all because it is the most beautiful, whimsical, and we're going to rant more about this. Jude is growing up in fairyland. There are two ways that mortals can solidify their place in this world, and that is either by marrying a fairy person and having children, basically, because also, interesting point, their fertility is a bit funny. They get periods once a year, and they sometimes have kids. Like a fairy may have one baby in 100 years or may never have kids at all. So they really need that sweet, sweet, breedable human life. I just wanted to say breedable in
I know
one.
you did.
In one. They need that sweet, sweet human womb in their lands
I'm sorry.
to continue their population. So you can either get locked down and start pumping out them little half-fae babies, or you can earn your place in the court. Jude wants to earn her place in the court. She does not just want to be a stay-at-home mum, which go off.
We love that for her.
And that's all we're going to say.
Because if we say anything else, it will ruin it.
It will ruin it, and it will also, there are things that wouldn't ruin it, but I want you to experience it in the book. I'm usually read whatever you want. Go fucking read this.
Yeah.
I don't care if you think you don't want to. Go read it. Now.
And I'll
Do
be
it.
so serious when I say that we have both read this before reading it again now. It's still good.
It's still good.
Still good.
It came out in what, 2018? We've told you a little bit of the plot. I've told you need to read it. It is the most whimsical, beautiful, enchanting story. I feel like fae is a big thing in fantasy books at the moment, especially young adult fantasy books.
Big, muscly, fae, la-la-las who are over 6 foot, whatever.
Yeah.
This is not that.
This is not that, because what that is, it's just medieval human fantasy books that basically operate the same as our world, except they've got wings.
Can I say something controversial yet brave?
I would love it. I would actually love it.
The whole high fae thing where they have animalistic tendencies, wings, la la la. It's just people who can't handle monster fuckers. You know what I'm saying?
Huge.
So for those who don't know the genre, it's probably got a more polite term, but it's when it's orcs, minotaurs, that kind of thing. That's a whole genre of books, but they're too scared of it. And so they're going to the high fays that have those animalistic tendencies and have like that like mating bond, whatever, but they can still put a little like human face on it.
They make it like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Palatable.
Hive mind. Holly Black. She did fairy as we grew up with.
It's giving Shirley Barber.
Yes. Like whimsical, cutesy little creatures. They have horns, they have tails. But you know what they also have? They're cruel. You know that scene in Labyrinth where she's like, oh my God, they're fairies.
Yeah,
and
Hoggle's going
"She
out like
bit me.
poisoning them.
What did you expect him to do? Huge me reading and suggesting this book to people because the Fae, they have interesting morals. They have interesting morals because they're not allowed to lie. Like they cannot lie. It just means they have to be deceitful in other sneaky little ways.
Their words are very important. The words that they use.
You can end up in little agreements and little like promises and things with them, which goes absolutely crazy. But they can't lie to you, which is super cool. But also they're fucking evil.
And I love that.
I love it.
Let's lean into like
morally dark grey.
I love that they don't have the same social structure as like mortals do. Whereas in those like Fable, like the high Fae books, like Sarah Maas universe, they do have a very like mortal structured world.
Their moral compass is like the same as ours. Whereas in this world, it is absolutely not. And I think that's super fair because even if you look at like animals and humans, for example, we've made up all of these morals for our society. Animals don't have that. Animals survive on like a kill or be killed vibe. And that's kind of what the fairies do, really.
They probably do have, you know, some kind of societal structure, which they do. Like they have like kings and whatever. But it's everyone for themselves, which I absolutely love.
And it's such an interesting like thing to read because it doesn't feel at all like our world. Your idea of what a villain is cannot apply to this book because they're not being shit cunts based on their own world.
And I think it also makes it so much better when things happen, like the audience gets surprised by things because we never know how anyone is going to react or act in this book, which I think is great because a lot of the time when you're reading a lot of fantasy, because there are those moral structures, you can kind of guess where a scene is going and you can guess what's going to happen next. But in this, half the time I'm like, and they did what?
Literally.
And the who? Oh my God. Like, it's great.
Also, she rides a toad as a horsey. What more do you need to know?
The ragwort ponies. I love it.
A little twig, a little reed, throw it on the ground, becomes a horse. Crazy.
And the fact that like they've got like so much like goblins, nixies and pixies and all that kind of stuff that everyone looks so completely different, but it's so normal to them.
Bitch.
Diversity. And the fact that Jude and her sister, like the mortals, are considered ugly.
I'm so self-conscious about my round ears.
And my big titties. Babe. It's like, oh.
They've got hooves, doll.
Yeah.
Hooves.
He's got a tail, babes.
He's got a tail.
They're so othered. It's not something that you see a lot in these kind of things, which I love.
She's not the chosen one. She's literally the opposite of the chosen one. Not in a like reverse chosen one, still the chosen one way. In a, they're literally not welcomed or accepted in this society. They're seen as ugly. Even their love interests are regretful about it. They're like, I guess.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The fact that everyone keeps saying daughter of clay, circle of worms, you were made to die.
Huge.
That is insane and
metal
I love
as
it.
fuck.
Yeah.
But wild.
Circle of worms. Pop off. Yes.
Me also. Spoiler free is over. Go read the book. Pause it. Come back. Welcome to the spoiler free part. Also known as Fuck Taryn.
Okay. I'm going to preface this. We're about to rant.
I feel like reading this, I had this experience, which again, we've both read this book before. I have not read any of the rest of the series and I have been furiously waiting for us to record this episode so I can carry on. It just consumes you and it took you away and it was so other. Like there's fantasy where there's fantasy themes and then there was fantasy where it was like all consuming this totally different, beautiful other world. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not unknown to me to get bored in the skim read through a couple of scenes. If there's a paragraph about describing what a house looks like, I'm skimming that because
that's
I
none
don't
of my
give a
business.
fuck. This book, I ate up every single, and I went, shut up, and went back and reread it because it was so beautiful.
Literally. And I said this to you when I was starting to reread it again. I remembered so clearly what the castle looked like, what their bedrooms looked like where they were, because she writes it so beautifully. Like it just stays in your little brain.
I would physically make and birth, even at the risk of my own life, because that's where we're at, a child, to have an audiobook of this read by Henry Cavill.
Oh my God. I would cease to exist. I would just poof, dead.
Quite literally.
Especially if he does it in the Geralt of Rivia voice.
This is exactly the voice I'm thinking of. What? Superman? No.
Okay, thank you so much. When he plays Superman and any of the like clean cut characters, I'm like, you're ugly. I'm so sorry. As soon as he's got a little bit of scruff, a little bit of dirt, looks like he's going to give you a UTI. Yes.
White shirt, dunk him.
Yes.
Then he's hot.
Oh my God.
And you know what? Blonde men, I'm sorry. Not for me. But Geralt?
Because it's white. It's grey and I'm into it. The only blonde character, a blonde love interest in a book that I would go to bat for is Peter Malark from Hunger Games.
My brain went Legolas.
He's not a love interest. He's our love interest.
Correct.
But he's not anyone's love interest in the book. But Peter Malark, I would go to town for that bread man. Again and again. He deserves so much better. Anyway, that's another thing for another day.
I'd seen him as Superman and I was like, that's a man. Hello. Whatever.
He's got a chin. Great.
He's got a chin. He wears glasses sometimes and sometimes not. Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
Anything else. And I was like, oh.
And there it is.
And back to being breedable. No, I'm kidding. Mum, I'm so sorry. You unleashed me on this world like a curse. Welcome.
Taryn.
I'm
going to preface this because we're about to say some really awful things about a woman. And that's usually not my favourite thing to do. Because from number one, we are girls. I will protect girls forever. Until they're motherfucking Taryn. Because...
girls who aren't girls.
And there it is.
That's my biggest beef because I'm like, I want to support you, but you're making it real fucking hard,
I will support you. I'll protect you. I'll be your number one fan. But if you start being the worst to other women...
Even if you're not a girl's girl... for girls you don't know. You know who you should always be a fucking girl's girl for?
Your sister.
We are sisters. We are little sisters.
We are little sisters.
Shout out to Maddie and Sam. Hello.
And I understand that other siblings have different relationships. La 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 la. Great. That's fine for you. But the way I was reading this, and because I think Taryn, even though they're twins, is older than Jude, but I would assume with twins, they would then act that way. But the way that Taryn treats Jude is the most horrendous thing that I've ever read in my life. Not only are you keeping secrets from your sister, which is fine, you can keep secrets, great.
But also, my sister knows too much.
I'm calling my sister and I'm telling her literally everything about my day. Literally everything.
If you're not someone who has a sister, or you're not a sister who has a sister, the bond between siblings exists because that is someone who understands your lived experience better than majority of other people. Yeah. I'm the youngest of 5. Shout out mum. If there's anything my mum knows how to do, fucking pump out some ferocious, opinionated people into this world. And good on her.
And we thank her for that.
I'm the youngest of 5. My eldest siblings, out of the house before I was even born, big age gap. My sister, she's like less than 10, more than 5 years older than me, which I think is an interesting age gap. I was a child when she was finishing high school, so she was definitely my older sister. My brother, 2 years older than me, we're the same. As I've gotten older, I've recognized that Kyle and I have such a specific bond. Sam moved out of home when I was still growing up because she became an adult. Whereas Kyle and I lived together at home for the majority of our lives. Yeah. And we share the same upbringing, life experience, even like the same parenting style of the same parent. Like the parent my mum was when she was 16 to my eldest brother to the parent she was for me when she was 40. Wildly different.
Yeah, everyone changes. So a parent is absolutely going to change.
Huge.
Even from like 5 years. But like that amount of time, for the last one, I'm going to birth myself. And that's what she did.
And she did. She really did. She went, you know what? I'm not going to raise a child. I'm going to clone myself and unleash her on this world like a curse. And that's what she did. For those of you who have met my mother, who've had the privilege,
nay, the honour,
you will know. And honestly, I'm surprised it's taken this long for me to rant about my mum in a book club, let's be honest, because it usually comes up much sooner than that. But sisters. Anything could happen to me in my life. Even something, and this is Taryn. This is... anything could happen and I could commit murder and I would call her immediately and be like, I need you. And she'd go, yep. She wouldn't even ask questions. She'd go, yeah, okay. And she would, first of all, speed there recklessly. And then she would come and help me. The same way she used to pick me up from school when I was faking sick. I mean, when I was really sick. take me back to her place, give me a pack of chicken twisties, and we'd watch a little show together. Because sisters ride or die.
I have a very similar experience. My sister is 5 years older than me. So when she was in her last year of high school, I was just beginning high school. So growing up, she didn't really like me all that much, but I think it's because she couldn't handle it that we were the same.
My whole life, I've been called like Sam whenever I do something that is like my sister. And now her daughter, Havana, gets Monique. Am I the only one saying that I am you bitches? First of all, Mum, you did this. Yeah. Sam is you. I am Sam. Havana is me. We are one.
We are
and
a collective.
You did this. Yes. The matriarch line in my family is strong as fuck. When Mum fell pregnant with me and I was a girl, Sam, annoyed. And then she realised that I'm her best friend.
And when they realise, because me and my sister are also best friends, shout out Maddie again. I think when they realise that you are best friends, that's the key.
They're like, oh, you know
They're
what
like,
Mum did?
actually,
she birthed me a weird little sidekick. The job of being a little sister is to be the weird little one. Because let's look at our sisters, for example. They're both spooky inclined.
Yeah. As
daughters who are all second generation goths, our sisters, they're civilian passing.
Me and my sister, let's put a photo of me and my sister up right now
for
those who are, because
also the genetics
and
are
our sisters
strong.
are probably listening to this and they're like, what are you about to
Shut
say?
up.
Please be quiet. But me and my sister, we like to joke that we are the sun and the moon. I am this little goth like gremlin and she is like blonde, beautiful. She is the standard. She would have been on the OC, you know what I'm saying? That's what she looks like.
But
on the inside, she is us. I look like I'm tough. I'm a baby. My sister would literally fight people for me. They would say things about me. I grew up fat. Look at me. Of course I did. And people would say stuff about me and my sister would rock their shit. This tiny little skinny twig of a thing would go to town for me. And that's what sisters should do.
My sister is very much the same, except we do not look like opposites. We are a clone. So here's our sisters. And you know where Taryn is? In the fucking bin.
She's in the bin where she deserves to be with her pink jeggings.
Oh my God.
And ankle boots. I knew I hated her. As soon as she picked those outfits, I was like, you are going to be the worst.
We are not the same. When we were talking before about how Jude wants to earn her place in this society, Taryn's decided she's going to do the full opposite. Yeah. She's like, I'm going to have babies and I'm going to fall in love.
It's valid for anyone who wants to do that.
But also the symbolism of Taryn just deciding to follow society's structure for women and then being a massive shit cunt bitch face dog. We love dogs. To her sister in that, when are we going to learn?
She's like the queen of the patriarchy.
You will never be able to be a girl's girl in that role because it was not designed to be so. Jude, on the other hand, and also their older sister. Maybe. So now that we're in the spoiler-free part, they're in fairyland because their mum was married to a ferryman. Also, I saw fan art. Did you pick up on the fact that he's green?
Oh yeah, he has green skin.
I didn't clock that for a single second.
I haven't looked at fan art of him though. Is he hot?
Is this green man? No.
Damn it.
No.
In my mind, he's hot, but with green skin. I know he's a murderer. That's fine.
The dad is a super interesting point of like not a bad person following the politics of their land.
You want to hate him so much, but he's like, I'm so sorry.
Okay, but the crop
He's
top.
Hot. He's so hot. I'm so sorry. And this is what I'm saying about people who aren't willing to go there with monsters.
Go read Ice Planet Barbarians and get over yourself.
Join the party, please.
So he is in love, married, whatever, I guess, to a human woman. They have a little baby. She runs away with another human mortal man who is also in fairyland, which is super cool. He earned his way in fairyland because he was a blacksmith making swords, which badass.
I wish I could be a blacksmith.
And he learnt all he could in the human world about swords, and then through that somehow realized that there were fairies and was like, I need to go learn their shit. So he came to fairyland to learn how to make their swords, became like a master swordsmith, meets this human woman. He's like, I'm gonna steal that. They run away to the human world and try to hide with the baby that is not his but is Maddox Green crop daddy.
Yeah.
He finds them.
He finds them once they've had kids together.
They have twins, Jude and Taryn. He finds the shit out of them, and he, when they're like 7, when the twins are like 7, absolutely murders them in front of the kids. And that's where we open the book.
Which I loved that. If this is meant to be YA, I think, this book. I love that it opens with a murder. It tells you exactly
where you're going,
where we're going with this book. It's not like pussyfooting around.
Did you just laugh at saying the word pussy?
I did. They're not like tiptoeing around the fact that these people are bad. They're telling you straight away, bad guy. But even in that moment when he does kill the parents, Jude reflects that it's very obvious that he didn't go there to kill the mum. That was not what he went there to do.
And that he massively regrets that.
He was overcome with rage because he's a fairy creature.
The kind of fairy that he is as well. A red cap.
A red cap. Oh my God.
Is like a literal creature of murder and war. Yeah. He dips his little hat, which I need a photo. Holly, I need to know what you were imagining when you wrote about a character who dips his hat in blood every time he kills someone. First of all, time consuming in battle, I imagine. Second of all, is that not the mustiest, crustiest old Christmas hat you've ever seen in your life? Like, that's what I was imagining. A Christmas hat that had something spilled on it and then got put in the back of the cupboard. Surely the blood would be like flaking off. But then again, this is magic.
Well, and when they say the tides of the blood, so there's different tide lines. But I was going to say reality, maybe it is, whatever. But in folklore, actual folklore of red caps, they're not 6 foot tall and hot. He's probably not hot, but I'm saying he is. We saw the photo. In folklore, red caps are like small, little like elf looking people, but they're like scary. The hat, from what I remember, the hat is very much Papa Smurf.
I was imagining like a classic witch hat vibe.
But I love that they added that in as a trope, that like even if he wanted to, he couldn't not. It's a part of who he is to be that violent and also to dip his little hat.
Even in that action, and this is where we start to see the fuckery of fairy politics. So him going to murder them in cold blood for betraying him, totally fine. Especially because they're mortal, so their life doesn't matter. He's coming to take his daughter. But because he murders their parents, takes in the twins, and he treats them like his own children. Even though they are not his, they're this other dude's. Because they are the children of his wife, even though she fucking ran away with some other dude, he's like, you are my responsibility now. And he's as good to them as he is to his own actual daughter. I'm your dad now. And I'm like, that's a choice. But also, who am I to know anything about good dads?
But he does more for these two. Like, he killed their parents, sure. But he does a lot better than a lot of step parents that I've met in my life.
And also, even like later on in the book, he gives Taryn and Jude things that their father made. Like their father. There's like an honor even when they're being big old sneaky cunts. And that is fairy. The little stuff about like wearing your stockings inside out so you don't get lost in the woods, having salt in your pocket, blah, blah, like all that stuff. Berries. The berries. All of that is in here and it's so cute.
Especially if you were someone that grew up on like fairy tales. My mum, she's a hippie, like grew up in the 70s kind of vibe. We would like make little fairy chains, like put them in our hair, like daisy chains. We would go and make like fairy circles and all this kind of stuff. And like, so fairies were my bullshit as a kid.
Also, one of my most like vivid childhood memories is that my mum had this little like ceramic house that would sit in like all of the gardens that were in all of the houses we lived in, the 2 houses I lived in growing up. In my mind as a child, a fairy lived in that. All of my like strongest memories as a child when I was living on a property was like that there were fairies everywhere in all of the gardens, and there were all of these like secret creatures and things that would only come out when I'm not around because I'm immortal, and if I could just convince them that I was one of them or that they could trust me,
I would leave them little trinkets and be like, come on, like I'm one of you, please.
Absolutely. It was such a huge, beautiful part of my childhood. So to see that reflected accurately in a book, I was like, I'm getting nostalgia, but not in a childhood way. It's feeling like me now honoring my childhood in a way, which is, it was delicious. Also, if schooling education was the school they did,
I would have gone every day.
Oh my God. A little picnic where we talk about the stars. I'm in
the dark.
I'm in.
They're mostly at nighttime. They switch the daytime routine, which I love. So they're like in the dark having a cheeky little picnic.
But also it seems like they seem to wake up at like midday and then, or like after that, because like that's just my life, to be honest. Like that's my schedule.
Same.
They'll do like afternoon classes, and sometimes she's like, and before the sun went down, we were done. Woo. But also when they're at school, they have to deal with a whole bunch of cunts. Kids, notoriously,
are the worst.
Awful to other kids.
But when those kids have magical powers or like magical influence over other people, that's terrifying.
Which is also a thing. Fairies can do the little compulsion thing over mortals, which is why they wear the berries. Their younger brother, because back in Fairyland now, their father has a new wife who, you know what, I love. We don't get a lot about her, and if there's anything I love, which it's a trope that I've only just really started to take notice of, it's a complicated woman to protective mother redemption arc. That is one of my favorites. Yum, yum, yum. Give it to me. Delicious.
I think I began the book being like, Oriana.
Because she really, like, at the start, she really, like, does not trust the kids with Oak, their younger brother. She does not trust them. And the girls are like, the fuck? Why?
He's our brother.
We find out why later on. Because he's not their brother.
He's no one in that house's relation, actually.
He is the prince. He's a prince.
He's a prince.
Their stepmom, girl's girl.
Okay. Yes. Oriana uses the patriarchy to her advantage, pop-off queen. But they talk about how Taryn learnt underneath Oriana to be that wife-mother vibe, and that Jude learnt under Maddox to be soldier general vibe. But even though Taryn learnt under Oriana, she didn't get it. She did not understand. She thought that she had to throw every other person under the bus, where Oriana was like, nay, we protect the people we love. We might be bitches about it, like rude about it, but you know what? Yeah. We got to do what we got to do, but Taryn would never.
But also, she doesn't give them the full story. They don't know what she's done. I think that is where Taryn copies her behavior, but she doesn't learn the principles.
She doesn't get it.
She doesn't get it. All she sees is like, this is how I survive, which I'm going to give Taryn a moment, because all she's trying to do is fucking survive in this world. She's not cut out to be a general or a soldier like her sister is, an assassin for the king. She's not cut out to do that. So her only real option is to become or to go back to the human world, which she knows nothing about. So this is literally her only option, which we cry, doesn't mean you should be a shit sister.
Yes, these are the cards you've been dealt. Work with it, babe. Figure something out. Let's not throw the one person who would do every single thing for you under the bus.
And over a boy?
A boy? A man?
Disgusting.
Never in my life.
Jude and Taryn end up basically dating the same dude. And I love it so much because when I started reading the book, I sent you that video where I was like, Jude starts hanging out with Locke. I'm going to say Locke. It's spelt Lockie, but we're not saying that. We're Australian. Lockie, foul.
Not for us. I think Locke is more fairy to me.
Locke starts showing an interest in Jude while she's being tormented by the other kids in the group of his friends. This one cunt guy.
What's his purpose?
Valerian.
Wears red and is a bitch.
Yeah, literally. And you know what? That's going to be my mood for when we go out next. I just want to wear red and be a bitch. Narcissa?
Nicasia?
We're not going to talk about her very much.
Nicasia, the mermaid one.
She is the daughter of the sea queen.
Queen Orla.
Ursula coded. And then we've got Carden, who is the son of the king. He's the youngest prince. That meme you sent me, where it was like, in all of these worlds, and this is super common in like the high fae book thing, where it's like 17-year-old girl and an 18,000-year-old adult man who's been here for 500 years, and for some reason they're compatible. Nay. Holly Black gave us a little 19-year-old idiot.
Little dumb little man.
Yes, he is also he has a much longer lifespan than her, but he's still a dumb little boy.
He's still a boy. He hasn't got that full frontal lobe. Not that I know how fairies' physiology works, but that frontal lobe has not developed, and I love to see it. Yeah.
We can say that safely. That's their little group of friends. Locke is in it. And he starts showing an interest in Jude while they're tormenting Jude and Taryn. And Jude is making things worse because she's fed up. She's had enough. And she starts fighting back. And she picks Carden as their ringleader, which we later on kind of realize that the rest of them are kind of shit. And he kind of reins it in.
He both allows it and stops it from going too far.
Blatantly I didn't want anyone to die. And then she recognizes all of the times where he stopped things from going too far, even though he still was very cruel to them.
Because cruelty is what he knows. And if this was in a real setting, I would not excuse that, because people can make choices in the real world that we live in 2020, whatever it is.
Enemies to lovers only exists in fantasy, and Holly Black is the queen of enemies to lovers.
She did it.
Because this is a true enemies to lovers. It's not, we don't really like each other, and now
or our parents
kissing.
hate each other.
Yeah, this is you are genuinely my enemy, and even as they're becoming lovers, they more so become enemies.
Yeah.
More so because she sneaky betrays him, and I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs.
And I forgot that happened, and as it was happening I was like,
but Locke starts to show an interest in her because he's a slimy little bitch. And
but when you're reading it,
you're
you're like,
kicking your feet a little
finally,
bit.
you're like,
Kicking your feet.
finally,
Yeah,
someone's so cute and loving and sees her for like this amazing person that she is.
I was really trying to remember how I felt when I first read it because, like I said, I sent you a video like straight away and I was like, I know we hate him, but I can't remember exactly what happens. And I know he fucks her over and I hate him, but I can't remember why. So all these cute things are happening and I'm like, shit, letting her wear your mum's dress, taking her to the party. Like, I was pissed, but I couldn't remember why. So then like starting to figure it out. As soon as Taryn was like, I have a suitor, I was like, I remember. Taryn, babe, have a bit more respect for yourself.
Self-respect, please.
Which also, he really manipulated her. Maybe we're being too harsh on Taryn. She's really just trying to survive in this world and gets manipulated by a man.
Here it is. I understand that when you've been treated horribly by men or boys for like whatever your life, and then someone starts to give you interest, that's so flirty and fresh and we love it. Like when you have that teenage mind, I remember when boys start liking you, you're like, oh my god, yes.
And he really manipulates her to be like,
he's like, if you loved me,
can't deal with me keeping your secret and fucking around with your sister, you're immortal. You would like, he really puts her down. It's giving age gap relationship vibes, but in like a different species kind of frame. So she's like, well, fuck, this is my way to my one goal, to my like having a place and being safe. And you know what? You're right. Because even though we understand why people do things, we don't excuse their actions still. And she didn't have to fuck her sister over in the process.
And that's the thing,
but
like,
we're
going to share for a little second here. When I was a teenager, I was on MSN. Because that's how old I am. And there was a boy in my year. It was year 9, year 10, I don't know, whatever. And we would talk every single day. But then at school, he would not acknowledge my presence. But if he then turned around and was like, oh, I'm actually going to start dating your sister or even one of your friends, I'd be like, hold on for a little minute. What?
Let me change my song on MSN to the lyrics to Behind These Hazel Eyes real quick, you fuck.
You mother. And I will say, he was one of the first people that introduced me to emo music. Pop off, that person.
The only thing I've gotten out of all of the toxic men I've wasted my time on in my youth is bands and music. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. Was that my trajectory to be a hot little goth? Yeah, it was. Yeah. I don't think, and I say that now with my 30-something-year-old brain, I don't think that I would ever have done what she did.
No. Because what she does is stands by and watches her sister fuck around with this dude and make a fool of herself and get her little feelings invested so her little feelings could be hurt, knowing that he was going to pick her in the end, which is so gross. Because then they go to that ball, the coronation, I think it is, and he's dancing with her. He's like,
could you love me if I broke your heart or something like that? And she was like, literally no.
I love how she responds to questions like this because, okay, this is why she's our queen. I'm just going to read it to you. His tone changes fucking real harsh in this moment. Before that, he's all fluffy, la 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 la. And then this moment, he really shows his true colors. And I'm like it's very jarring. He said something about like making a promise, blah, blah, blah. Or he's like, would you like promise me something? And she was like, I guess it depends. Do you love me enough to give me up? Isn't that the test of love? And she just says, I don't know. And he said, do you love me enough to weep over me? And she says, you mean if you were hurt? And he says, I mean if I hurt you. And she says, if you hurt me, I wouldn't cry. I would hurt you back. Toxic. And we love it.
Can I just say to Locke in this moment,
fuck you.
You don't know each other that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels, he's like, do you love me enough? And I'm like, we haven't said that to each other. Why are you being so weird? We just danced and kissed a few times. Like, step back, please, sir. If any of our friends came to me and was like, this guy just said that, I'd be like, run for the motherfucking hills because that guy is crazy.
I love putting my adult self into context like this. If he was like, would you love me enough to weep over me? I'd be like, I don't even know your middle name. I wouldn't like, what do you mean? We've hung out a couple of times. This is not exclusive.
Oh, you haven't been talking to other people?
I've been busy stabbing and murdering one of your best friends who tried to make me jump out of a tower because we haven't even gotten to like the juicy part.
There's so many, we're all over the place.
Jude gets an offer to become one of the king's like secret assassins. What are they called?
They call themselves the Circle of, I can't remember. The Circle of Shadows? Is that it?
The Court of Shadows.
The Court of Shadows. Thank you.
She gets invited into the Court of Shadows, which are Prince Dane.
He's not the worst Dane I've ever met, you know what I'm saying?
Is correct. She gets invited into his Court of Shadows, which is like his little spies that do his sneaky dirty underwork. We've got the Roach, the Bomb, and Ghost. Ghost sounds kind of hot, I'm not going to lie to you. As soon as they brought him up, I was like, oh my God.
Like half mortal boy. Stop. Never have I wanted a nickname like that more in my life.
I know.
The Liar would have been way cooler.
Even like Kingmaker
Cool. Yeah.
would have been sick. But you know what? I've been trying to push this for a long time in my normal life because at work we use radios, and I have been trying to pressure the people I work with, literally on both Phantom and Tina. I want everyone to just call me the Snake, because in crew world, in like working in production crew world, a lot of people just get nicknames. Like once upon a time, I did this gig with Casey Chambers.
That is the most random thing you've ever said to me. Continue.
I did this gig with Casey Chambers. She came and did a show at a venue that I was tech directing, and I was there to help with the gig and blah, blah, blah. She brings her own crew. She's got the same crew that for like her entire life. This one guy who mixes for her, who's a sweet angel. Shout out to you. And then there's this other guy, which I was like talking to him on the phone, trying to get details about what they need, blah, 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 doing pre-production stuff. And they were like, oh, you need to talk to our like production guy, Worm. And I'm on the phone to him and I'm like, hey, by the way, where does the name Worm come from? And he was like, oh, you know, Mr. Worm, I don't know. That's why I'm
you must
asking
tell
you.
Me, sir.
And I'm like, how did you get the nickname Worm? And things like that come up all the time. So I've been trying to pressure, which I think they come up naturally, which is why me trying to pressure my coworkers to call me the Snake hasn't been working. I'm going to ask you guys to start calling me the Snake. Make my dreams come true.
Me, Maddie, my sister, and my husband was sitting around one day when we were like a lot younger than now, probably when I was in my early 20s, and we were sitting there and we were talking about this exact conversation, like nicknames. And my sister was like, I have never had a nickname. Her name is Maddie, and that's just her name. So everyone thinks it's like Madeline, Madison, but her name is literally a nickname.
My mum's the same. My mum's name is Kim. And people are like, Kimberly. And she's like, it's just
actually,
Kim.
No. Yeah. So she's like, I've never had like a proper nickname before. And jokingly, me and Matt were like, oh, what would you want to call yourself? And she just sits there for a little second and she just looks up at both of us and goes, Wheels. And we lost our minds.
Why Wheels?
Literally no idea. She drives, but like there's nothing in her life that has anything to do with wheels. And we were like, in that moment, we were like, I refuse to call you Wheels. That is never happening. I'm never calling you Wheels. But it came to the point where another one of my best friends, her name is also Maddie. Like my best friend from childhood, her name is Maddie. So I've always had two Maddies.
And she's a fucking angel.
She's the best
Hi,
person
Maddie.
on this earth.
We love you.
She will probably watch this because she also loves us so much. But she is everything to me. Anyway, growing up, it would always be, I had to have two Maddies in my life. So there would be Big Maddie, which is my sister because she was older than us, and Little Maddie. And that's what my parents would call them, respectively.
That's really beautiful. My mum called Sam and I bitch 1 and bitch 2.
I'm going to change your name in my phone to the Snake, just so you know. But now, because when you get into your 30s, everyone's kind of the same. Like no one's older than anyone. Everything's the same. So saying like Big Maddie and Little Maddie doesn't really make any sense. So in our household, and I say that, me and my husband, we have started calling my sister Wheels. So if ever I say Maddie, he goes, oh, you mean Wheels? And I'm like, yeah, Wheels. And so we have done what young 20-year-old us refused, but we have made it happen. So now I'm going to make it happen for you.
My closest friends and my family either call me Neek or Neeky. My whole life at home, I've been Neeky. I've never, ever been Mon. I've never even been Monique. It's either like bitch 2 or Neeky. That's it. Why do we always shorten to like the first little chunk of the name? Because I raise you this. Let's look at the name Timothy. Why would you want to be called Tim and not Mothy?
Imagine meeting someone and they're like, hi, my name's Moth.
Hot.
I think we should all just start giving each other
weird nicknames.
Weird names. Like
how did we get to this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Good eve, friends. When I first entered the entertainment industry as a tech, I often found that I had to let go of parts of myself as a feminine person in order to have space within the industry. And I felt like everywhere I went, I had to prove myself even harder than most of the other people who were in that space. I started making content around working in the entertainment industry in order to demystify and empower other people, especially young women and gender diverse people entering an industry that often hasn't had a lot of space for us. I create informative and entertaining, I hope, content around working in the entertainment industry, around the different kind of jobs that I've gotten, how I get them, and the lifestyle of touring and working in this industry, especially as a young woman. There will also be another part of Book Club that goes live on that channel. The non-fiction part of Book Club, which is aimed towards shining a light on women and gender diverse people within the entertainment industry, while reading a really cool book about some other badass people in the industry, will go live on my Monique Tech YouTube channel. You can find me on all the socials. You can find all of those socials and my website through the Girls on Tour Book Club.
Her skill set is that as a mortal, mortal, she can lie. And she can also move through fairyland undetected because people think nothing of her, basically. Like, she fakes being a servant, but she also, because of her father's position as a general, can move through like the upper class world of fairy. She's welcome there, she knows it, she moves through it.
Welcome.
But she can also...
Maybe.
Welcome-ish. She's invited, but it's implied. She fakes being a servant to like sneak around and get little things and blah blah blah, and to be a sneaky little thing and to rescue a girl who then kills herself. So she starts having a little thing with Locke and entering the Court of Shadows, where she starts gathering information because Prince Dane thinks that his brother is going to get him schmurdered before he can ascend.
The throne. Yeah.
Ascend the
I think
throne?
that works.
Well, I'm going to write a book. He is due to become the king. He is perceived to us at the start of the book, basically up until he almost dies, that he is like the good brother.
Yes.
But later on we find out that he not only killed Locke's mother and Oak's mother, Locke and Oak are brothers.
Are brothers.
Then also he starts poisoning his father. So like, actually in reality, great guy.
But I think it does really just go to show that in the world of fairy, no one can really be trusted. No one is inherently good. No one is inherently bad. Wishy-washy grey.
Their dad, their stepdad, beautiful example of this, because he like does all these real weird shitty things, but then at the same time he is still an active father. Even the end, he's basically planning to get Oak put on the throne so that he can be regent, is that what it's called? Oak is just a means to an end for him, even though he obviously loves him and that's his child.
And even though he has no genetic...
There's only one kid in that house who has his...
whatever
stuff.
I think it really just goes to show that he has his own moral compass that he will stick to. If people get in the way of that, then so sorry, so sad. But Jude can't help but love him. She hates him because he killed her parents. He does all these bad things. But she knows, and she says this a few times, that if she told him that someone hurt her, he would kill them. He would go out and be like, that's my kid, how dare you. That also, Carden knows that even though Jude has no relation or whatever to Madoc, that he knows that Madoc is a better father than his actual father.
Yeah. Now we're on to enemies to lovers. They're enemies to lovers vibe because they end up talking about it later in the book. Because Jude's like, why the fuck do you hate me so much?
Yeah,
why
what
does
did I
he
do?
hate her? Because he wants to smooch her on the mouth. And also because he's like, you are free of all of the burdens of my life, basically. Like, you have a dad who loves you.
In his
when
own way.
he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, when he has every reason not to, he still loves you and acts as a father to you. You have all of these options, all of these things. And his life is still pretty garbage. Even the shot of the brother that he's like, I like that brother, is him beating the shit out of him. And I'm like, that's a choice.
And now we understand a lot of Carden's issues when, like, the person he likes the most is still the one that's beating the shit out of him.
Huge. And all I'm saying is, I could fix him.
And there it is. But I love that Jude doesn't think that. Well, in this book. Like, in this, she's like, he's a horrible person. I'm going to kiss him.
I lean toward him, close enough for a kiss. His eyes widen. The look on his face is some commingling, didn't know that was a word, but I loved it, of panic and desire over Carden, like just talking about having power over him, who I never thought had any feelings at all. You really do want me. And you hate it.
That is the sexiest thing ever.
So then, with a knife to his throat, she kisses him as like a weird punishment. And I am just saying that I too deserve to be punished. Later on, she's like, I can feel the moment he gives in and gives up, pulling me to him despite the threat of the knife. He kisses me hard. It's like fighting, except what we're fighting for is to crawl inside each other's skin. She was like, is that what you imagined? And he says, no. And she says, tell me. And he's like, you're going to have to stab me. Because he can't lie. So he's probably like, that was hot as fuck. But he's like,
I'm not talking about it.
I'm not talking about it. Secrets. The politics of this world has me in a vice grip. Their relationship
His
because of
tail?
its complex. His tail. What kind of tail do you imagine?
Thank you for asking. In my brain, it's very much like a devil tail, like a very thin, like leathery devil tail, but with like a tuft at the end. Because they say that he like wraps it around himself. So it has to be muscly enough to be able to wrap. Oh, I love it. I love it.
So many of the scenes of him, which I think is what got me, because I'm gonna give you a toxic trait of mine right now. An angry, uninterested man who doesn't say a lot. Delicious.
Carden is dumb, hot with a tail.
I think fantasy books did that to me because there are so many scenes of the uninterested, but he has a secret love only for her love interests, are them in a ballroom in impeccable dress,
Staring at each other.
Him staring at her and his tail just...
And doesn't she say that she sees his tail at one point because it's like wrapped around his stomach? He hides it because it kind of is his tail, because it shows when he's afraid. On his face you wouldn't see that he's scared, but it's obvious that he is scared, and that's why he hides it. It's like the Pride and Prejudice thing. It's where they can't touch each other. It's where they're across the room saying nothing. Oh my god, there's so much I could say about this book.
I love it so much. I'm so excited to keep reading the other books.
There is something that happens, no spoilers, and I'm not even spoiling it for you now. I'm spoiling it for no one.
Punch you in the face.
But I think it happens at the end of the second book that will drop your jaw. I remember so clearly when I read it, I was like, it floored me. And I'm so excited to get a little video message from you going, what is going on? Because it will happen.
You know what I love? Dedication to the presentation of a book. Because if you look, I don't know if it's in your one. Yes, it is. In my one as well. It's like the little chapters have these beautiful little like leafy boys. There's little daggers to separate little things. Beautiful.
More of that, please. This map is for no-brain girlies like me.
Geography is not my business. It's not my business. Me as a person who tours for work, it's not my business. I look at these maps and I'm like, what? Who, what, when, where, and how?
How long does it take you to get there?
How long? What is this? Mountains, I guess. This is simple as fuck, and God bless.
This looks handwritten, janky as hell. Yeah. Someone scribbled it in their beautiful art form. Love it.
It looks like it takes 3 steps to get anywhere, and that's what I wanted, because it makes sense.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. I do not want to see a single fucking map where there's 86 years between locations. I'm like, what is there? You didn't fill out the map. The map is blank still.
Do you know what I also think? People who live in Australia, as we do, geography doesn't make sense to me, because you could put Australia onto other countries and we are 1 billion times larger than those countries. So when someone says, oh, it takes 3 hours to get there, I'm like, oh, so you didn't really go anywhere. And they're like, oh no, I went to another country. And I'm like,
yeah.
What?
I think about that a lot, being someone who works in the entertainment industry, because touring here is so difficult. Like, the reason that international performers don't make it all the way down to Australia a lot, because there aren't a lot of major cities for them to play in. And to get between those major cities takes like 8 hours minimum.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK or even in the States, you can hit a new city in a fucking hour.
And not only does it take so long to get to all these different cities, it takes like 20 something hours to get here from the Northern Hemisphere.
Hey, it's me again. As you can probably tell, I love the hell out of a good story. Whether it's a book, a play, a movie, or even my best friends telling me their wildest dreams. I've seen so many ways to wed, and I love them all because your ceremony is the perfect place to have your story heard. So if you're looking for someone who won't focus too hard on tradition and will let your authentic self shine, I'm the celebrant for you. I can't wait to hear your love story and help you tell it. To get in touch or find out more, head to my website, www.loveburncelebrancy.com.au, or my Instagram, loveburns.celebrancy. And all of that information will be available for you at Girls on Tour.
So that's my feels about the book. I'm excited for the Fable rants about this book.
Yes. I could talk about all of the real, true folklore that she has put into this, and it is delicious.
We also love that because you know what we're going to do? Even though we're creating our own worlds, what we are still going to do, and I want authors to listen to me loud and fucking clear. If you are borrowing inspiration or language from other cultures
that isn't yours,
fucking put some respect on it and do it properly. If you're using folklore, you are actually inspired by that folklore. You don't go, that's a nice idea, but I'm actually going to make it this. You use it and you use it properly. If you're going to use other languages, you pronounce the words the way they're meant to be pronounced.
Yeah.
Authors.
Oh, we could rant about that forever.
Using another culture's lore to inspire you, I think is super fucking cool, because we should be inspired and be learning other cultures and other things. It also gives access to other people to go, oh, where did that come from? And to learn about it as well. But what you should do when you have an idea that is based upon another culture's information and history is go fucking learn about it from somebody who is a credited source from that culture. Learn about it and do it in the most respectful way you possibly can. And if you come up to a wall that says, actually, this is not appropriate for you to write about, don't fucking do it.
It's so simple. And you know what? Fantasy, it's all about making shit up.
But if you're going to make
things-
shit up, make shit up.
Like, literally pull it out of your own brain. Don't just pull things together and say that you made it.
Borrow things from real life cultures, marginalized or colonized cultures, and then be like, oh, but actually, I'm going to put my thing down, flip it and reverse it and make it whatever I want. You are not Missy Elliott. Leave it alone.
Get the heck out of here. And that's not at Holly Black because
No,
she's
Holly
done
Black's
it correct.
I'm going to find a way to talk about Elsie Silver.
You're like, let me talk about my cowboy smut for a second.
Let me talk about my cowboy smut. I've never seen an author give a content warning more beautifully than she does it. She'll, like, at the start and the end of her books, she'll talk about this book contains depictions of depression, child abandonment, blah, blah, whatever. I hope I've treated this subject with the sensitivity it deserves. The one that I just read, one of the characters, he has a stutter that has come on from a very severe concussion he had, which is very rare, but it happens to people. And that was directly inspired from someone's lived experience. So she put in the back, this is the information I know. This happened. It's actually very rare, but it does happen to people. Thank you so much to this person for lending me your knowledge and life experience so that I could portray this accurately in my book.
Yes.
Elsie, you're my queen. You're my cowboy yeehaw queen.
So excited to hear what everyone thinks because if someone hates it, I'll probably be really upset.
That's a really good point. That so far we've enjoyed or found things to enjoy about all the books we've read. I'm so excited to see what happens when we don't like a book.
Because it's going to happen statistically.
Especially as we start reading more like new releases, we're going to hit something that we fucking hate.
And we've been dragging characters in books that we love. So imagine what we do when we don't like the book.
Literally.
That's it. Let us know how you like it.
And if you don't, remember that silence is free.
I love this. I love you. I love you.
Read the book.
If you haven't already shared them, we need to hear your thoughts on this month's book. In order to have spoiler-free chats about the books that we're reading, we are using the book club app Fable. It's free, it's quick and easy to make an account and keep up to date with the Girls on Tour book club. There are 2 separate book clubs, one for the non-fiction book and one for the fiction books. Make sure you head over to our Instagram, TikTok and YouTube page at the start of every month to see what book is coming next. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching if you're watching this on YouTube.